Hey, we've been watching some noir, film noirs. We watched 1941's Maltese Falcon, very good, and 1944's Double Indemnity. Those are quintessential film noir films from the noir era, the 1940s to early 50s. A lot of these noirs were being made. Now they're not. It's not really exactly a genre. Like noir isn't a pure genre. It's a because like they're thrillers, right? They're detective films. They're dramas. They kind of fit into a larger drama. So to call something a noir, it's really sort of like the elements that we look at that make it a noir. Uh, and then, of course, this happened during the Hayes era, and so we had some censorship. They go along with how everything played into the tropes of the era, what we expected to see. And so now what we have is sort of noir died out. It kind of just sort of fizzled in the late 50s. We had done the movies to death. We knew what to expect: Venetian blinds, fedoras, smoking, femme fatales. Not really sure what's going on until the end, resolving it. Usually somebody's killed. Of course, they'll pay the price if they committed a crime. And the genre kind of died out through the 60s when a lot of other types of filmmaking were going on. And it wasn't until the 70s that we had this sort of a resurgence of noir, a neo noir. Neo just is French because all good things cinema are French because it's sophisticated. Neo noir, new noir. So we're going to watch 1974's Chinatown. Great film. A young Jack Nicholson. If you know him, he's really fun to watch in this because 1974 was a long time ago. He's very young, handsome, debonair. Well, not so much debonair, and you'll see that. Faye Dunaway's fantastic. Those cheekbones, oh my gosh, as Evelyn Mulwray. So anyway, we've got noir-like elements. We've got all of the elements of a noir in this 1974 film. It's not of the noir era. It's a color film. But it's a detective film, and it takes place in the 40s. So even though this film, Chinatown, is old to us, it's a period piece to us, in its time, 1974, it was actually a period piece. It was portraying an era that was really 30 years before. It's late 30s Los Angeles, right in the middle of that kind of noir era. So it plays up these the connection to the noir genre that it's got as a neo-noir. So be looking for Venetian blinds. There's even early on, the screenwriter even put a joke in there. I mean, really, like in the first scene, we see a reference to Venetian blinds, and it's just that sort of light, like, hey, did you notice that this is probably going to be a noir? See the way I'm dressed. See that I'm a private investigator, and this is my office, and there's Venetian blinds. It's sort of a wink at the noir era. We've got a femme fatale when Faye Dunaway's character comes in. We don't know what to make of her. We feel like she's hiding something, but we don't know what. She's vulnerable. There's definitely like an interest between her and the lead character, Jake Gittes, Jack Nicholson's character. There's kind of a chemistry there. And we've seen enough noirs to know that usually leads to the downfall of one of the characters. Usually the femme fatale is out to manipulate the male characters. You can't see because of my face right now. John Huston is Noah Cross. Now, Noah Cross is a character that comes in about the middle of the movie and then becomes important in the movie. John Huston is the guy that directed Maltese Falcon. That was his first movie. And he's in this as an actor. So all of these sort of winks at the noir era are there. And it's clearly kind of a noir style film with a sort of a self-knowing that it's a neo-noir, that it's part of this long tradition. So there's John Huston, an old man now by 1974, but prolific filmmaker. Have you heard of Angelica Houston? This is her dad. She's an actress too. Is the original Maltese Falcon. So John Huston directed that. It is shot in color, unlike the noirs that we're used to. There's not a lot of night. There's some night scenes, and they're beautiful, just like the lights and darks. There's a lot of like dusty, dry outdoor scenes too, which takes some of the noir elements and subverts them just a little bit. And generally, like you think of Sam Spade's character, this private detective who he outsmarts everybody, he outtalks everybody, he's a fast talk. He can remove guns from Wilmer. He can remove guns from who's the Peter Lorre character. He's just like, he's the toughest guy in the room. He's the smartest guy in the room. He's the funniest guy in the room. He's the hardest drinker in the room. Like it's all that stuff. He's kind of invulnerable, masculine ideal. our main character here, J.J. Gittes, thinks he's that. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but he's not the. He misses some things, and it's because some stories just aren't straightforward in order to be solved. There's our femme fatale, Faye Dunaway. So, as cool as Humphrey Bogart is, J.J. Gittes, played by Jack Nicholson, walks around for half the movie with a big bandage on his face, right? And so, like, just the visual element of that takes away some of the cool, some of the I got everything under control aspects of the hard-boiled private detective. So here's just proof that it's a great film. It won Best Original Screenplay. It's called one of the best screenplays of all time. Film scholars study it. It was nominated for everything else: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Actress, Film Editing, Dark Direction, Costume Design, Cinematography, Sound, Music Score. It was nominated for everything. Didn't win much besides Original Screenplay, but it really holds up as a great film. And I think part of why it holds up so well is it doesn't look like a film from the 70s. Because it's a film from the 70s about the 40s, it just kind of looks like a film about an era, about a time period. I don't know. It's hard to say, like, when you watch an old film, how some of them can just feel relevant and some of them don't feel relevant. You judge that. My claim is it really holds up, and it probably will forever. So here's a tidbit of information that you might find interesting about the filmmaker Roman Polanski. And I put this in there because an element of film noir is that there is a force of evil or criminality or bad behavior that's nearly unstoppable. It's just out there. There's corruption. Well, here's Polanski's life. He survived World War II. Although both parents were taken to concentration camps, his mother was killed in Auschwitz, and he wandered the countryside of Germany, sort of being taken in, being helped out, but really kind of homeless, just trying to survive during World War II. Really tough life. When the war was finally over, he was reunited with his father and began to study film, began to tell stories. Studied in London, began to make movies in London. Made a couple of movies, got to be a sort of a big-time filmmaker. Made a film called The Fearless Vampire Killer. So he's got this sort of obsession with the occult and the dark side of humanity, where he meets his future wife, a woman named Sharon Tate. There they are together. Now, if you know much about Hollywood film history, you know that something really bad happened with Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. So they made Rosemary's Baby in 1968, which is really this film about Satanism. I mean, it doesn't get much more evil than Rosemary's Baby. It doesn't get more like raw fear than Rosemary's Baby. But because of that film in 1968, they were targeted by the Manson family to send a signal to the rich elite in Hollywood. And Charles Manson, as leader of the Manson family, sent his followers to kill Sharon Tate and anybody that was in the house. There were 3 of her friends were there. This was nearly portrayed. If you've seen the recent film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, great film. It totally subverts the genre because we feel like we're watching a nonfiction period piece. We do know, okay, these are fiction characters. It's totally based on real life. But Sharon Tate, Margot Robbie's character, is in it as Sharon Tate. She's a real person who existed with a real story. She gets murdered in the summer of 1969 with her unborn baby and 3 of her friends by the followers of the Manson family. Charles Manson is in this movie. So if you know that Hollywood lore, you're waiting for that. You're with a sense of dread, like, oh my God, where's this going to go? And then Tarantino does this thing where he sends the Manson family to the wrong house. And suddenly this element of, we see Roman Polanski a little bit. We see Sharon Tate a little bit. The sense of dread that she's going to get killed at some point by the Manson family. It becomes totally fiction. She gets to live on that fateful night of summer '69 in Quentin Tarantino's fiction. That's not reality. She was brutally murdered along with 3 friends. So here's the Tarantino portrayal of Charles Manson. If you are familiar with the story, if you're old school Hollywood, you know that this is coming, and Tarantino subverts that expectation. Kind of like what he did in the end of Inglourious Bastards, where he ends World War II in a very different historical way by blowing up the Third Reich and machine gunning down Hitler and Goebbels. Like that didn't happen. But wouldn't it be cool if it did? And that's kind of what he did with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Well, wouldn't it be cool if these people were brought to justice by Cliff Booth rather than murdering Sharon Tate? So it did happen, though. Polanski was in London at the time. He was not in the house, and the love of his life and unborn child were murdered, brutally stabbed. And he, in 1969, the next movie he makes is Macbeth. And if you're a student at Mount Airy and you watch a film version of Macbeth, you'll probably watch the 1971 version by Polanski. It's great. It certainly was known as the bloodiest version of Macbeth ever to come out when it came out. And he plays up a few themes in it. Let's just say, well, I'm an English teacher, right? So let's say you've read Macbeth, and then you watch Polanski's version. You see a character named Ross who doesn't get a lot of screen time, stage time, I guess, from Shakespeare. You're reading the play, it's like, oh, it's Ross is kind of a throwaway character. In Macbeth, about a power-hungry king who's just really trying to seize power. He murders to seize power. He murders to keep power. And it becomes really bloody. And the character of Ross is played up quite a lot. And in order for the king to carry out some of these terrible acts, since he's got power, he tells people what to do, and they do it. And if you think about Polanski's life in terms of the Nazi defense in the Nuremberg trials, well, I was just following orders, that it wasn't Charles Manson himself that killed his wife. It was his followers. He persuaded somebody to do it. This character of Ross gets played up. He's a sycophant. He sucks up to power. He'll do whatever it takes. Even if he knows it's wrong, he'll do it. And that's my theory, that that's why that character's played up more in Macbeth. And I can't help but try to psychoanalyze Polanski because he got such a terrible, tragic past, right? All these terrible things happen to him. And it feeds this desire to make movies, to have it come out in art. So after, let's call it a psychological release in the bloodiest Macbeth version about power and struggle and murder and following and doing terrible things, he makes a sex comedy. Now, I've never seen this movie, but it's sort of a weird kind of yin and yang kind of thing. He makes this dark Shakespearean, bloody thematic power movie, and then he makes this sex comedy. Okay, we have all sides in a filmmaker. And then the next film he made, after, this is following the murder, 1974, Chinatown. So he could not resist the script. Robert Towne, who won for Best Screenplay, became the hottest commodity in Hollywood after that. He wrote scripts for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He wrote a lot of scripts. He sort of was like the first writer anybody had ever heard. I was like, oh my God, get that writer over here. And you'll see why when you watch Chinatown. Now, when you watch it, keep in mind a couple things. It's riffing a little bit on the film noir. It's not a satire anyway. It's dead serious. It takes itself seriously, which is any good film does. But it's hard to, there's a lot going on in the plot. There's so many different things. But the character of J.J. Gittes, he is a hard-boiled, serious private detective. We'll see in the beginning, his work is all about just kind of spying on people who are cheating on their husbands or cheating on their wives, just people that are cheating. That's his role. He goes around and takes pictures, he proves it, and that's how he makes his money. And his role as a private detective kind of escalates over the course of the film due to sort of the personal investment that happens, the need to have a morality, a moral compass, kind of has him keep digging, and he eventually gets in over his head. So see if you can follow all of the characters, and see if you can play off what Robert Towne, the screenwriter, was doing, how he was referring to what we know of the film noir era. He was referring to all those tropes and the things that became cliches of film noir, and he uses them wonderfully in order to kind of remake a neo-noir in the style of a film noir, but it's not quite a film noir. It relies on all of that to be what it is, but it's something new. I guess that's all I want to say for now. I really like this film. Enjoy it. It's pretty long, 2 hours and 15 minutes. Make sure you carve out, the right way to do it is carve out enough time to watch it all in one sitting. Do what you got to do. See you at the end of it.